now we have our next speaker, and as I said, I'm just here to welcome people. And we move from the OPC Foundation to DAWEX, and we have our colleague Frédéric Bellaiche, and he's going to talk about a very interesting topic these days, that is data intermediaries, right? Please join me on the stage, and he will talk about how data intermediaries build trust, ensure compliance, and orchestrate, and now the title is gone, how they, well, sorry for this, data ecosystems through open principles and standards. Sorry for the glitch. Thank you, and
thank you so much.
Very nice to have you here.
So, hi everybody. It's very nice to be here to talk about data spaces and data intermediary and how to build them. I'm just going to wait for a few seconds so that the slides are appearing. So, let's talk about data intermediaries and how to build them, how to build trust, and how to build them based on open principles and standards. But before that, I'm going to introduce myself and introduce DAWEX. So I'm Frédéric Bellaiche. I'm a VP Technology and Research at DAWEX. DAWEX is a French company founded in 2015. We have offices in Paris, Lyon, which is the headquarters, Montreal, and soon in Tokyo. We have a global reach, France, Europe, Japan, which is our second largest market, North America, Middle East. We are recognized worldwide as a pioneer in the field of data exchange. That's our sole purpose, to build the most advanced technology for data space, to run data spaces. We have customers in all the sectors. There is no limitation about that. So this is DAWEX, and now let's talk about how to create these data spaces. But before that, let's talk about what data exchange is. This is a precise process. It relies on rules and leads to what is called trusted data transactions. This is a process by which organization, teams, department, any organization actually, are forming, and on one side there's what is called a data provider. We grant another organization the right to get this data, the data acquirers, and access the data part with the proper rights. This data exchange is performed according to a precise governance. It's very important because there are rules, there are regulations, there are security concerns, they have to build trust among the participants, so it has to be very precise. It has to have contractual and business term. All is very precise, and it has to be organized, and for that to be built, we have to rely on open principles and standards. Maybe, is it working? Yeah. So, let's go a little deeper on that. There are three fundamental roles when it comes to data exchange. There's the data provider, which is inside an organization, whatever it is. It publishes data products, it sets prices, it defines licenses, and so on. On the other side, there are data acquirers, which are also members of organizations. It could be the same organization, or it could be another organization. The data providers is searching for data products inside the data catalog, and it acquires the data product, and there is a data exchange service between them. So that's the basic principle. It's quite simple actually, but the devil is inside the detail. Okay. From an historical point of view, the data value chain started mainly focuses on internal exchange, internal transformation of data sets. We get a small data governance who get the value in the production and up to the analysis of the data, so value in, value out. These are very classical steps, but there's a lot of limitation because it's mostly an internal process. Okay. Then this expanded. Nowadays, there are multiple organizations, multiple data exchange between separate organizations and separate data value chains. We got here on this slide several organizations, and they all have either their own data space and they're exchanging internally. They can exchange between organizations. It can be across data spaces. Everything now is possible. And since it is possible, we have to organize them and we have to rely on proper standards to create, to build trust. And at the very heart of this is the notion of data intermediaries. Why that? Well, since it's beginning to be very complex, there's a lot of challenges. Get the first, the scalability challenges, the security, all the regulation. We get to have systems which are now very complex and prone to error. It's costly. Sometimes it's not scalable. We got to build trust. We got to build security. There are all the security and confidentiality issues. If you want to do something which is a proper trusted data transaction, you have to have traceability, governance, business modeling and pricing, and of course, being conform to all the various data regulation. So this leads to standard, a new way to build these data spaces and to produce data exchange, which have to include compliance with data regulation, trust between the participants, it means trust in the data transaction itself, but all that is around data transaction, security and privacy, interoperability between the systems, whether the data spaces themselves or where the data are actually stored. There have to be many flexible ways to get access to the data. It can flow in many different ways. It could be managed, it could be distributed, it could be peer-to-peer, it could be by file, by API. There are so many ways to exchange data. And they have to have all the various business models that you want, and they have to be performance and scalability. So there are a lot of challenges and constraints. On top of that, so maybe thanks to that, there are a lot of different things that have emerged. Quickly, there are 3 pillars that appeared. The first one was actually data regulation, and it's a good thing that it appeared in Europe. And Europe is actually a pioneer when it comes to data, mostly because there are the proper regulation. Of course, there's been the GDPR, which has been there for a long time, but there are also the Data Governance Act, the Data Act. Many others are appearing, and it's good because it structures the market, it gives rule, and of course, we get to apply these regulations. There is also an emergence of norms and standards. Some are coming from the usual standardization organizations, such as the W23, some from Centenaric and Snow and so on. There's a lot of standards and norms that are appearing, but build on that, you have to also build and specify proper architecture. And for that, I will be presenting what's been done inside Gaia-X, but there are other architecture, but I believe Gaia-X is the best one. Let's talk about Gaia-X. As I said, data exchange is a process that needs precise rule, and this is where Gaia-X is good at. Gaia-X is a European initiative. It's now more than it's just around 400 organizations. They are big companies, there are academics, there are small companies, there are ONGs, there are lots and lots of members. They are all contributing under the same goal, which is to specify a proper way to build an ecosystem for data. The soul of Gaia-X is to build a way to build this data infrastructure in an efficient, competitive, secure, and trustworthy way. It is based on open standards, such as the one that I presented, the EBDVF23 and others. It produces 4 major documents. The first one being the Gaia-X architecture, which is a technical paper, quite large actually, the one that's been accepted by the board of Gaia-X a few weeks ago. Is quite large. It defines what is the technical basis of Gaia-X, what are participants, what are services, what are federated services, what are catalogs, and so on. On top of that, there is something which is very important, is what is called a trust framework. It's a way to define all the artifacts that you have in the data space community. Participants, services, resources, data products, all things that are involved inside the data space has to be described in a proper way. But it has to be described in a way that can be trusted. For many years now, we had digital certificates. It's an easy way to prove that someone or organization is what it claims to be. But it's not enough, because it only proves that you are the proper organization or the proper person. If you want to build trust, you have to come up with claims and proof of the claims. And these claims can be, okay, I'm this organization, and I'm claiming to be ISO 20700 compliant. I'm claiming to be in Europe. I'm claiming to have this level of security, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So you, as a participant, as a company, as a service provider, you can declare yourself and your services in a way that is standardized, but also that can be proven, meaning that these claims can be seen and checked by trusted third party to check, okay, what he's claiming is right, and I'm putting a stamp on that, and everything is now clear, certified, and everything is trusted and clear and under control. So this trust framework is at the very heart of Gaia-X. Then there is the data exchange services, and this is somehow my baby, because I'm actually leading the work on Gaia-X on the data exchange services. This is a document that describes how to build data spaces, how to do proper data exchange, what is a data product, how do you distribute the data product, how do you define what's inside, how to define what are the licenses, how to define the way you can handle the data, what you can do or not do with the data, and so on. So this has become a crucial part of Gaia-X. And then there is the last major document, which is the policy rule and compliance documents. This is a way to describe what it means to comply with the specification of Gaia-X. There's no such thing as data space Gaia-X compliant data space. There is a way to define that a data space has participants, and these participants are Gaia-X compliant, and if they are Gaia-X compliant, they are to be trusted. If there is a database that provides services, I don't know, data storage, for example, it has to provide the proper claims, and this service can be Gaia-X compliant, and then you can trust it, and so on. On top of that, there are labels that are defined, mostly for European organizations to define and to prove that they are in Europe, they are complying with the proper regulation, and so on. So it's quite important. I think in the next summit, which is going to be held in Alicante in a few weeks, we're going to probably say that, yes, Gaia-X version 1.0 is there. It's running. It's built by industrials. and it's already there and run by companies such as DAWEX. Let's move on to several items that you can find under the definition of the data exchange services and data spaces. There is the notion of data product, which is very important. It defines not only that it's a collection of data, but you get all that is needed to make a proper data transaction, meaning that on top of these data sets, you got all the description, all the metadata, but also what are the licenses, what the term of use, what you can do, what you cannot do with the data, where to get them, how to get access to them, what are the prices, and so on. So all the definition of what the data is inside the data product, but not only the data itself, but the way to access it, to define it, what you can do, not do, and how to license it. Based on these data products, there is another important notion, which is the data transaction. It refers to a unique, immutable unit of data access or data transfer or data exchange, whatever you want, logged, treated in a current way and reliable way, independent of any other data transaction. It's a way to specify how the data is transacted in the proper way. And on top of that, there is a current work under the Sense and Elect governance, which is a pre-standardization, a way to define what a trusted data transaction will be, meaning that there are going to be a way to define levels of trust, of security, and so on a data transaction. Then comes the notion of data intermediation service provider. It is an organization, as defined by the European Data Governance Act, that provides services which aim to establish commercial relationship for the purpose of data sharing or data exchange between, well, an undetermined number of participant data providers and data acquirers through any technical mean and under the scope of the data of the various European data regulation. It's a definition of which is very important because it is at the heart of what data spaces will be in Europe and well, around the world, I guess. And then there's this notion of data transaction that I've already talked about, but since we have data product, since we have these data intermediation service providers, we have to find a way to build them, to trust them, to provide the proper traceability and licensing and technical exchange. So to build that, we need standards. One of the standards that is used by Gaia-X, but it's actually a standard from W23, is what is called credential, actually verifiable credentials. It's a way to build trust and allow accountability. Participants, but also data services and data products can be described as credential. It's a way to describe all the claims, which at first are unverified. I'm claiming that this data product is my own and it is stored there and it doesn't have any information, personal information and so on. So this is a claim and it has to be described in a proper way, in a proper format, in a proper JSON format, which is the standard of the W23 credential. Then it has to be checked by third party and becomes what is called a verifiable credential. And then it can be used inside a data space. It could be the verifiable credential itself or a subpart, which is called a verifiable presentation. So it is a very important concept. It's not something that has been invented by Gaia-X. It's something that is a standard, is a W23 standard. But what Gaia-X did is to define the proper ontologies for these VCs for the purpose of running data spaces. So it defines what a participant is, it defines what a data service is, it defines what a data resource is, what a data product is, what a data contract is, and all what is needed to build proper data spaces and proper data intermediaries. But it's not enough. even if you have this, this way to describe all the artifacts for data exchange, you have to go on and check that everything is fine. And this is where compliance as code arrives. Compliance as code is not a new notion, actually. It's something that is very old, 20 years old, actually. And it comes from the fact that, well, code acts like the law since it detects what a user can and cannot do. And from that point of view, we now are coming to code, from code is law to law is code, because there are a lot of regulation. And in the context of data exchange, compliance as code can be used to automate the checks, meaning that there should be a way to describe all these artifacts, say a data product, and describe their, all what is needed, and more especially the term of use and the contract things, in a way that is human readable and machine readable. And if it is machine readable, a lot of things can be automated, and then you can have these services on your data intermediaries and check based on this declaration that everything is fine and do the proper trusted data transaction. And this is where another standard comes, which is another one from the W23, which is the Open Digital Right Language, or ODRL. I won't go into the detail of what ODRL is because it could take hours, but it's a language which is made to describe exactly what I meant before. It's a way to describe what you can do or not do, or the responsibility or the duties you can apply to a data product or to a service. So now it's inside the Gaia-X specification. For now it's optional, next year it will be mandatory, but when you're gonna describe the data product, you will have to attach another real file that will describe exactly what you can do or not do, what are your duties, what is mandatory, and all that is linked to the use of your data products. For example, you can describe as another file that you have to be in Europe to get access to this data. You can describe in ODRL that you can only use this data for research, for example. And all this can be described in ODRL. Of course, it's got to be described in a human readable way because you have to sign contracts. But if you want to automate things, do compliance as code, you can also take this ODRL description and enforce these terms in a computable fashion. And this will be my last slide. That's what we've been doing on Gaia-X, but Gaia-X is also built on other standards and other organizations, such as BDVA and IDSA and other important organizations. We have created a new version of the architecture document. I won't go into the detail of this conceptual model, but all what I've been speaking about, the data product, the data licenses, the data contract, but also all the means to control the flow and to manage data consent and data authorization and so on, is described inside these documents. There is a new version of the trust framework, which now relies on what is called digital clearing houses, which is a way to bring compliance to the VCs. Like I said, all things should be described in the VCs, and they have to be trusted. So there are now services that are helping to do that. There are all the things that have been described inside the data exchange services that I'm talking about. Use standards, DKV3 for cataloging, ODRL for contract and usage, and a new version of the policy document that is based on that. And that will be my conclusion. I think we've made a lot of progress over this year inside Gaia-X, and we are now ready to build data spaces in a proper way and to include these inside our technology, and this is actually one of the purposes of DAWEX. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frederic. Very concrete information. I think many of us, we have learned on the details that have provided, and very clear. And thank you very much, and please engage with Frederic. There is a booth in the exhibition also for DAWEX. So in the same way that from the previous colleagues from OPC Foundation, you can go and ask questions in the booth.